You open your phone. You type a question into a search bar. 3 seconds later, you have an answer that would have taken a medieval scholar a lifetime to find. You don't think about it. You just scroll to the next thing. But for most of human history, the biggest questions had no answers at all. They just had guesses, myths, shrugs passed down for 1,000 years. And then, one by one, some of the strangest ancient mysteries on Earth actually got solved. Not by magic, not by aliens, by people who looked closer than anyone else had bothered to look. The real answer is far stranger than the myths ever were. Start with a lump of corroded bronze pulled out of a shipwreck off a Greek island in 1901. For decades, it sat in a museum, mostly ignored. It looked like scrap metal fused together by 2,000 years underwater. Nobody could explain the gear teeth pressing through the corrosion. Why would ancient Greeks need gears at all? In 2006, a researcher named Tony Freeth used high-resolution X-ray tomography to look inside the object without breaking it apart. What he found rewrote the textbooks. 30 interlocking bronze gears, a hand crank, dials that tracked the sun, the moon, and even predicted eclipses years in advance. This was the antikythera mechanism, and it was built more than 2,000 years ago. It is essentially an analog computer. Here's the part that should unsettle you. Nothing this complex shows up again in the historical record for over 1,000 years. Someone built a machine so advanced that human engineering had to reinvent it from scratch centuries later. Think about that the next time you feel behind on technology. Someone in ancient Greece was already ahead of you, and then the knowledge simply vanished. Now travel south and east to a hill in modern-day Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. For decades, historians agreed on a tidy story. First, humans settled down, then they farmed. Then, once they had free time and full bellies, they invented religion and started building temples. Simple, logical, wrong. In the 1990s, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt began excavating massive carved stone pillars at Göbekli Tepe, arranged in circles, decorated with foxes, scorpions, and vultures. Radiocarbon dating placed the site at roughly 9,600 BCE. That's older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years, older than the pyramids by 7,000. And here's the twist. There was no farming yet, no pottery, no permanent villages nearby. These were hunter-gatherers, and they were dragging multi-ton stone pillars into place to build something sacred before agriculture even existed. Which means the old story was backward. Religion and ritual didn't come after civilization settled down. They may have been the reason people settled down in the first place. Belief came first. Everything else followed. Doesn't that flip something in your head? You've probably been told that practical needs shape human behavior. That belief is a luxury we add once survival is handled. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. Sometimes meaning comes first, and structure grows around it. Cross the Atlantic now to a stretch of desert coastline in southern Peru. From the ground, you'd see nothing but dirt and scattered stone. But fly a few hundred feet up, and enormous shapes appear scratched into the earth. A hummingbird with a 30-meter wingspan, a spider, a monkey with a spiraled tail. These are the Nazca lines, carved between 500 BCE and 500 CE, and for most of the 20th century, nobody agreed on why they existed. Landing strips for ancient astronauts was a genuinely popular theory. That's how confused people were. The real answer came from patient, unglamorous fieldwork. Researchers including Maria Reich, who spent decades on her hands and knees mapping the lines by hand, along with later teams using drones and satellite data, connected the geoglyphs to water. Many of the lines point toward underground aquifers and seasonal water sources. Others appear linked to ritual walking paths used during ceremonies tied to rainfall and fertility in a region that receives almost no rain at all. So the mystery wasn't about aliens landing, it was about ancient people trying to communicate with something they couldn't control. Water. Survival. The oldest anxiety there is. They turned desperation into art so massive it can only be fully seen from the sky. You do something similar, even now. When you're anxious about something out of your control, you find a way to externalize it. You make a to-do list. You talk it through with a friend. You turn the invisible fear into something you can look at. Humans have been doing that for thousands of years, just at a much larger scale. One more. Easter Island, thousands of miles from any other land, home to nearly 1,000 massive stone statues called moai, some weighing over 80 tons. The mystery wasn't just who built them, it was how they moved. No wheels, no draft animals, no cranes. For a long time, the leading theory was collapse, that the islanders cut down every tree to build sleds and rollers, wrecked their own ecosystem, and doomed themselves in the process. Researchers Terry Hunt and Carl Lippo challenged that story with a simple, almost absurd experiment. They attached ropes to a replica moai and had a small team rocket side to side, walking it forward like you'd walk a heavy refrigerator across a kitchen floor. It worked. The statues were designed, with their forward-leaning shape and wide bases, to be walked upright by a coordinated team pulling ropes in rhythm. The lesson wasn't just about statues. It challenged an entire narrative about a society destroying itself through ecological suicide. The truth was more human and less dramatic. Careful engineering, teamwork, a solution hiding in plain sight that took modern researchers years to even think to test. What connects all four of these mysteries isn't aliens, and it isn't magic. It's this. Every single one of them was solved not by a lightning bolt of genius, but by someone willing to look at an old problem with fresh eyes and modern tools. X-ray imaging, radiocarbon dating, drone photography, a rope, and a replica. The mysteries themselves were never really about ancient people being mystical or superhuman. They were about ancient people solving real practical problems, tracking the stars so crops didn't fail, building meaning before they had food security to spare, finding water in a place that offered none, moving something massive without wheels. Every one of these puzzles has a human fingerprint on it, not a supernatural one. And that should make you a little more suspicious of easy answers today. Every time you see a headline that says scientists are baffled, remember that most mysteries aren't actually unsolvable. They're unsolved because nobody has looked closely enough yet, with the right tool, at the right angle. You live in a world where you can type a question and get an answer in seconds. But the answer only exists because somewhere, at some point, a person decided a 2,000-year-old lump of corroded bronze was worth scanning instead of ignoring. A person decided those carved lines in the desert deserved decades of fieldwork instead of a shrug. The next time you open your phone and type a question into a search bar, remember that the fast answer you're about to get was once somebody's obsession, somebody's decades, somebody's rope and replica and refusal to accept we'll never know.